All right, guys. Welcome, everyone. We're going to get started in just a second. Okay. So, we're going to be discussing what I'm going to be watching for today and things of that nature. Just basically going to give you guys an outline. And let's start with ES here, right? So, what we're seeing right now is we are here on the daily. Let's just look at it on a different, without anything on here, right? We're coming off this, highs, swing low, swing high, swing low, swing high, right? And this can eventually end up breaking down into this low right here, this 38.2175 level, right? Depending on how today's action could be one of the biggest, indicators of what could potentially occur, right? We could end up getting a heavy rejection for a, sell-off continuation to the downside, and so that's something you should be looking out for. And I think that would be, something of interest. And so here, let's go into the 4 hour, right? We failed to take out these highs, right? And we're still maintaining, price creating lower lows, right? From this low, lower low, right? And if we break, if you end up breaking this 39.50 level, right? If you're looking at this in terms of general trend, this uptrend would break because this higher time frame, low, higher low, higher low, higher low, these structures would end up breaking, right? Into, for example, you target these equal lows, these relative equal lows, this low, and ultimately these lows down here, right? See how these lows down here are equal as well, right? So that would be the draw on liquidity on the higher time frame if we are aggressively pushing lower, right? So that's what I want to, shift my focus to. So if you go here, right, let me mark this out, right? These are all equal lows here. Equal lows, right? So what I'm potentially expecting is that, in today's session, what we can do is potentially, give some setups for some downside. That would be slightly ideal, but we'll have to see once we get closer to 9:30 what occurs at 9:30. If I go on here on forexfactory.com, at 10 a.m. we have CB Consumer Confidence News and Richmond Manufacturing Index and FOMC member Bar speaks, but that's not really high impact. But the two high and medium impact are the CB Consumer Confidence and the Richmond Manufacturing Index. So those are the ones that I want to be looking out for to see how price sets up for a run at that time. Because around 9:50, 10, price tends to give some sort of reversal, and from 10 to 11 you'll see some ranges in price based on algorithmic price delivery, right? And it'll deliver to either a buy side or sell side liquidity, so either upside or downside. And again, you have to be there. We'll see what the setup is and where it wants to deliver to. So that's what I'm looking for right now. These are my levels. I want to see potentially price work its way deeper into this breaker here, and potentially into this blue line. This blue line here is a 4 hour fair value gap here, marking the high end of it and the low end of it as well, right? So I want to see price work its way in towards it a little bit. We're seeing here this 4 hour candles are looking very bearish. The way it's just coming off these EMAs here are pretty aggressive, and we can expect some downside for that. This daily, depending on how it closes, could be a large determinant of price action in the next couple of days going into Friday, right? So I definitely want to see if price wants to work its way down here, maybe even to this fair value gap. It'll be quite interesting, right? From this low to this high up there. Let me fix it. to this high up here, right? This high up here, right? As you guys can see, the 50% retracement is down here. So I think the main daily objective would be that 50% retracement mark, right? Price can work its way into equilibrium, and then we can get some sort of reaction off there. But I think that's what I'm going to be focusing on, to see if price can work its way into equilibrium, and also this volume imbalance down here, right? So I think that would be one of the main objectives for the day. But for now, I'm just going to wait to see how it ends up playing out. And then would look to pursue further interest after that. But there's a ton of equal lows below, and there's some equal highs above as well, in terms of here, etc. But I think these lows are going to be targeted first. But we'll see how it ends up playing out once market opens, obviously. Let's shift our attention to some various different stocks, right? We have Apple here. If you guys remember, we charted this out yesterday, and we saw that it just consolidated from this this area. It actually ended up opening up here, and it rejected this zone, and it pressed back into this zone. Right now, what we're getting is a gap down, and so if today's bearish and we're seeing that price wants to drop, I go on the 15-minute and I'll mark out my 5 and 8. Excuse me. I'll mark out my 5 and 8 EMA and see if price maintains below it. So what could happen is price retests this zone here on the 15-minute time frame and rejects it, and then we can see some potential push to the downside. If market is bearish, right? If not, we'll work our way in towards back in this zone, and then you'll just use the same technical analysis that we have up here, right? Playing between the ranges, right? So that's how I look at it. Nothing really is going to change here. Just watching what I have up here already. And your next pivot point, if price wants to press lower, would just be this. Right, it would be this area here. Let me see the. Okay. Cool. Right, so that's how I look at Apple. But yeah, nothing crazy here. Just watching to see how it ends up playing out a little bit. Let's go over SPY real quick. I just want to see if it gapped her up or down. So as you guys can see, SPY is gapping down here. So yesterday we had the gap fill trade to the downside, right? As you guys can see that. We ended up playing it. And then right now we're gapping again a whole, a little bit here. Let me go here. Yeah, so from this high to 365, there's going to be a gap. So I think that's going to get filled as well. Coming off these zones here, I think it's going to get filled. And then we'll look for some adverse reaction in price to see what it potentially wants to do, right? I did mention that to you guys yesterday in the Discord. I said that if this general trend breaks, right, we're going to gap down a little bit. So you had this general trend here breaking on price, and price did end up gapping down indeed, right? Not too much, but I think we can go fill that gap and then potentially press lower maybe, right? Maybe in towards 391 area, but we'll see, right? I want to see how price reacts off these lows, and then we can, determine something from price. But for now, I'm just watching to see how this zone gets treated, how the gap gets treated, and that will be my main objective for the day. And then obviously what I mentioned on ES, which is like price pushing lower potentially, right? This is just the ES chart. Yeah, so these levels are all new weekly opening gaps, right? I'm gonna actually mark that on my other chart. Right, so if you go here, where is it? So you see like how Friday's close and Sunday's open is going to create a level where price constantly reacts at. So that's our new weekly opening gap. right? So any weekly opening gap in price, as you guys can see here, price can just reject at it, right? That's what it did. It ran through it, rejected it. Yesterday, consolidated around it, used it as an area for a bounce, and then here it broke it, retesting it, and eventually took out. So right now, what we see is it took out sell side. So I think we can bounce up here in towards these levels and then potentially end up rejecting, because there's quite a few equal highs up here, right? So maybe we can push back up there and then reject for further lower, or we could reject these fair value gaps. But it would really be ideal that we run buy side now and then eventually push for sell side again, right? But this low got taken out, so we'll see what transpires at 9:30 open. Again, guys, I appreciate if you guys would leave a like and subscribe if you haven't. That would be super helpful just for feedback purposes. If we go here on the dollar index, right, we're coming into this fair value gap here on the dollar index, right? And so market symmetry means that, if like you typically want the dollar and the futures market to go the opposite direction of each other, right? So if dollar is in a position to bounce, and then and if ES or futures are in a position to dump, then that would be an amazing setup, right? That would be a really good setup. So I think that if we're gonna bounce here on the dollar, right, here if we're looking at this on the higher time frame, if we're looking to bounce here on the dollar, what could end up happening is that we can push all the way up till here, right, which would be 102.3630, in towards this gap here, right, in towards this gap. So if we do end up pushing higher in towards that gap, then that would set up a perfect scenario for the the futures to dump, right? Right. So that would be ideal for that drop, continuation for the breakdown. But we'll see what happens, right? For all I know is dollar could keep dropping and ES pumps. So we'll see what happens. Let's go over NQ. No, Tesla here, not NQ. Again, Tesla, we had this gap, right? That ended up getting filled on Monday, right? You guys can see here, retested, broke above that, tried to push higher, but came back down, retested the zone again, and then continued to drop, had this drop into this 190 level, right? So Tesla has been giving some amazing moves, right? Been very it's been pushing, pretty nicely. So, but right now, for Tesla, I'll use the same pivot points. We can modify it a little bit. We have this gap still, right? But we can, drop it down from here. In towards that level right there. Right, that's our gap for the day. And we see we can use this area as a pivot point once again. What you can do here is actually, change up your pivot points a little bit. You can be mark this high. Right, that could be your large pivot point, and then eventually this right here, right? This zone as well would be a pivot point on price. So that's how I'd look at Tesla. And I traded between these zones here, right? Based on 15-minute candles, 15 and 5-minute candles, and how they end up playing out, right? I don't usually like to go in lower time frames for other stocks, right? I don't usually do 1-2 minute time frames for other stocks. I typically maintain my higher time frame thesis on them. I don't look at VIX. But I'm really interested in mostly seeing what ES does more than anything else. We're seeing here, we're seeing some equal lows here, relative equal lows. right? It did tap that low, but it's kind of relative equals now. Yeah, we could end up pressing lower, like a lot lower, but we'll see. Should be an interesting day, especially with the 10 a.m. news. So I'm gonna wait for that. I usually sit the first 30 minutes out, and then I'm gonna wait for it to see what 10 a.m. news brings about. This weekly also looks kind of interesting, right? If you go here, it's get a clear picture. We're coming off this order block here, so from this high to this low, right? You're at this area, right? 50% retracement. So this can end up breaking down, a lot lower into 3730 areas, right? So it really comes down to how this daily and weekly end up reacting. Should be an interesting day, to be honest, right? And then we'll see what happens after that. But if we do end up running this, important low, right? These equal lows right here, 39.37, right? That's going to be very important to see where price is going to go next. So I definitely keep that in mind when approaching today, because it's going to, play out. It's going to be fairly important. It's going to be a fairly important level. Any questions, guys? Yeah, we already reviewed. We already did another review again just now. But yeah, we'll see. Right now, again, I'm potentially expecting some upside before downside here because we just took out this low, and we could potentially end up bouncing here, and then continue rallying higher into the market open. That might be the case, and then we'll see how that goes. Any questions so far, guys? If not, that would conclude today's session in the pre-market reviews. I don't really have anything else going on. I'm mostly just going to focus on ES today. I don't really care for other stocks. So I'm mostly just going to look at ES. And again, leave a like. I'd really appreciate it. Make sure you guys are following me on Twitter at SteelArms LLC. I'd appreciate that. But what I'm going to go for now, I'm going to go hop on live in the Discord. If you guys want to join the Discord, it's in the chat. It's in the description. So make sure you guys go check that out. That's where we live trade every single day. If not, that's fine. Just keep joining these pre-market reviews. But this concludes today's session. Again, guys, I'd appreciate it if everyone would leave a like. It's going to be uploaded as well onto my YouTube channel, so you guys can go review it. But yeah, appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in tomorrow's session. Peace out.